Do you love hanging around with your best buddy, but sometimes don't quite enjoy looking at him? Fear not, the MISC Reliant has you covered. I'm Forrester, and in this video I'll be reviewing the Star Citizen ship, the MISC Reliant Kore. Star Citizen is currently in alpha testing, with the MISC Reliant as one of the flyable ships. The Reliant is described as a starter ship and light hauler, and features 2 seats so you can bring a friend along with you. Also notable is the slightly gimmicky feature where the whole wing will rotate. I followed the usual format for this review, splitting into 5 sections, starting with a ship tour, assessing combat performance, reviewing handling and visibility, looking at the operating costs, before finally summarising. I've included timestamps in the video description to help navigate to each part of the review, and if you enjoy this review, please do subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. That helps you to be notified of future videos and helps me to grow the audience. Part 1. Ship Tour. Moving around to the back of the Reliant is the main feature, which is the deployable cargo ramp. This is the main entry point into the ship. There's room for 6 standard cargo units of storage, or if you're willing to scrape it a little bit, a grey cat buggy. There's a small walkway which sometimes leads through to the front cockpit if in the correct orientation, and the cockpit at the front with co-pilot seat and pilot seat. Worth adding that the 2 little chairs do rotate, which is the big mechanism at the back. Part 2. Combat Performance. For a starter ship, the Reliant comes fairly well armed. There are 2 turrets which can be operated by the co-pilot if you have one, located at the extreme of each wing. Each turret holds 2 size 2 weapons, by default Badger repeaters. Additionally, there are 2 size 2 weapons on the wings themselves, by default reduced to size 1 laser cannons on a gimbal. If flying without a co-pilot, all of the weapons are directly controlled by the pilot. The Reliant Kore also comes armed with 4 size 2 missiles across 2 mounts, which add a decent amount of firepower. In combat, the Reliant holds up surprisingly well. It's pretty fun and engaging for both pilot and a co-pilot if you brought one. With some careful piloting, it's possible to tangle with some of the medium-sized ships, such as the Cutlass that appear in many of the combat missions. I'm not sure I'd stick around in a player versus player engagement, but considering this is not a combat fighter, I'd say the Reliant Kore can still perform to a reasonable standard. Part 3. Handling and Visibility. So starting with the handling, the MISC Reliant is not the most manoeuvrable ship, but it's not bad either. Of the different modes, the horizontal mode seems to produce the best results in atmospheric flight. Can take a little time for the nose to come around when changing direction, but the strong strafe performance can help to keep you from hitting anything that you don't particularly want to. It's largely the same story whether manoeuvring planetside, in atmosphere or in a vacuum. One of the real strengths of the Reliant is in straight line acceleration, which is pretty good. Deceleration is not quite so strong, even under space brake, so it's important to carefully manage your speed and your situation to avoid getting into an unforgiving position. The intricacies of the different engine modes take a little getting used to. A pilot could be forgiven for thinking there are 2 modes, with the VTOL/horizontal flight mode and the vertical mode, but there's sort of a pseudo 3rd mode when the gear is down and the engines drop down too into true VTOL. The visibility out of the cockpit is fantastic, particularly below and out to the direct front. That makes takeoff and landing very easy and intuitive, which is helpful for a starter ship. As far as the quantum drive is concerned, it's more tailored towards short hops with limited fuel for longer journeys, and a little slow by default, although it is possible to upgrade for a faster model in-game. That makes sense for the stated purpose as a light hauler. Thankfully, this is one of the few ships I've flown where doing a stop-off for fuel does feel like a fairly quick stop. And if anything, that adds a little to the immersion of flying. Part 4. Operating costs. Thankfully, and in line with what you might expect for a starter ship, refueling the Reliant is very cheap. Repairs can get a little heftier if you've been hitting the combat missions hard. With 6 standard cargo units of storage, it's possible to turn small profits through trading, but the meatier money-making opportunities are in running box delivery missions. I'd expect that's where most Reliant players would make their initial funds. The Reliant Kore can complete some of the simpler combat missions too, but they are a little riskier and will test piloting skills a little more. The second seat also gives options for personal transport missions, although by no means a nice ride, nor a fast taxi. For a starter ship, I think the Reliant is fairly forgiving and can be used to start building up some in-game funds to buy a replacement ship. It will take some time and could become a bit of a grind, but it's a reasonable starter platform. Part 5. The Verdict. So, for a period of time, the Reliant was my go-to ship for flying around. The extra seat is particularly helpful for group play. As more options became available though, it just kind of went out of vogue for me. Purely in the lens of a starter ship, I think the Reliant Kore is alright. I wouldn't say it's the worst option out there, and actually, for somebody more interested in the trading side of things, it might even be a good option to keep game costs down. But for a little more, I'd expect looking into a Freelancer or perhaps one of the whole series when they become available. And that's why I'm struggling here, as the Reliant wasn't really bad in any of my review categories, but I find myself comparing it to the review I did recently on the Avenger, which just feels like a better all-rounder. There's a lot to like about the Reliant, but it just feels as though it's got that underdog appeal. The lack of a bed is a little disappointing, especially since there is space in the cargo bay. Even just a fold-out bed would have considerably improved the options that the Reliant offers. I know this is a short hop ship, so it might be expected to rest up at a station, but as persistence improves in the Star Citizen universe, the ability to easily log out somewhere else is going to be a useful feature. The Reliant is available for $65 or in-game for 750,000 Alpha UEC. I honestly wouldn't advocate using in-game funds for the Reliant unless you're a ship collector, as I think there are many far better options to save for, but as a starter ship for somebody price conscious, I suppose you couldn't really go wrong with the Reliant. If you found this review helpful, please press that like button. You might also be interested in my review of the Avenger, which is a good alternative option to the Reliant. Please also consider subscribing if you'd like to see future Star Citizen content. And finally, for anybody looking for a group who plays the current patch of Star Citizen regularly, I've included a link to my organisation in the video description. But to close out, thank you for watching, and I hope you'll hear from me in the next video.